Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney, and I have Dr. Amanda, the Mindset Ninja. That's what we're calling her, the Mindset Ninja. I love that. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, Austin.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. So what I like to do with my guests, kind of let them start the story where they want to, and then we'll just see where we go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, oh, that's a fun one. You know, I love to do podcasting because my entrepreneurial journey started with podcasting. So it's kind of an interesting story. And I think most entrepreneurs or business owners, coach type people always start with a story, often of breakdown before they have some sort of breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it started, and I was on the floor crying one night where I was laying on the basement floor. I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair. My next relationship wasn't working. So he had moved out and the basement was empty. I had spent the day on Craigslist looking for houses, and I couldn't afford anything for me and my 3 kids. And I was already on food stamps. So here I am on the floor crying, feeling really scared and pretty bad and very, unhappy, and looking into my history and going, who can I blame? Like, why am I in this situation? Mm-hmm. And as I was scanning my history, I thought, I'm in every single scenario of this. It must be me. Mm-hmm. And so I sat up, I stopped crying, and I had this revelation, just like, okay, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to create better relationships and make more money because it's me. I've got to fix myself. And it led me to listening to podcasts because I was already super busy. And so I needed something free where I could learn on the go. And so between classes, I would listen to podcasts and washing the dishes and driving my kids to school. And while this was happening, my department where I was earning my PhD had this national news fallout where professors were leaving the department and everyone was really stressed. And I was like, this is not looking like the job that I want, even though I've been on track to be a professor for a long time, earning my PhD. And so I decided, I love teaching, and all those podcasts that I'm listening to are done by coach type people. So what if I take the leap and build my own business and start a podcast? And so I did that, and I went from food stamps to 6 figures. And it's been a really fun, mostly fun, of course, the roller coaster ride journey of being an entrepreneur and getting to help people master their mindset.
How did you get past that moment when you said, who am I to do the podcast? Who am I to coach, right? How did you, that's what stops everybody.
It's so odd because I don't feel like I had that. And it's weird to say. I think it's because I loved teaching so much, and I had taught 2,500 students in university. And so I fell in love with teaching. And so when I started into coaching world, I saw all these people doing it and helping and making money. And I was playing already with these strategies on myself, and they were working. And when I was talking to people, they were working. And so it was like, I can do this. Like, I just had such weirdly, I had such powerful confidence in it because I knew it was working for me. And that was really what caused me to have confidence. And I felt like, if I can change and I'm this stuck, I can help other people. And people are suffering. That was really my drive at the beginning. It was, people are suffering and we don't know how to do relationships. We don't talk about money. We really struggle, and there are answers. And so as I started finding more and more answers, I always tell people that selling is just caring. And so it was like, I really cared about helping people know what I was learning. And so that's where the inspiration kind of came from. And it was wild to watch my imposter syndrome shift, because in grad school, I had bad imposter syndrome. It was like, you're always being critiqued and everything needs to be perfect. All the things that elicit you feeling like an imposter. And then when I stepped into coaching, I still struggled with it some, but because I was learning all these mindset tools, I was like, let's just implement this and just go with it and see what happens. So it was quite minimized for me.
Can you describe to me, because I remember mine, can you describe to me the first time a client paid you for money?
Oh, so good. That is such a great question. Yeah, like we all remember this day, right? I mean,
oh, dude, I remember. I didn't even have an option. He sent it to me and said, deal with it. And I was like, what?
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it was great because for me, it was like, well, this is kind of funny. I have it framed in my office over there. You can't see it, but the very first client, he gave me $5 and he signed it because I was doing free coaching and through this coaching program that I was in, and they were sending us clients, and to practice, it was free. And then I told him I was going to start my own coaching business. And I was like, do you want to be my first paying client? He pulled out $5 and gave it to me. So that was my very first money. But then the first time I made like significant money, I mean, I almost fainted. It was like, you're going to pay me $2,500 to help you? Like, oh my God. I mean, I still have the checks. It was just like so cool. It was such an incredible experience.
And it's, the second client I ever got was a mentor of mine who had like 9 businesses, made like $300K a month. And I was like, what do you want from me? Like, I was going through a divorce, like, and he was like, look, dude, I don't need you to run my businesses. I need you to see ththings that I can't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that kind of cracked the code on the whole coaching thing. And then you get a big client, and it's like this big snowball.
Yeah.
Because then you're getting so much energy from the breakthroughs of your clients, right?
Yeah.
And then the money is just kind of a way to keep score. It's not really like the end game. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love that you say that too, because I had a lot, I will say the areas I had imposter syndrome were things like that, where it'd be like, well, this person is really successful. Why? Who am I? That question, like, it's interesting they want to work with me.
Yeah.
Like, they're so successful. And I had this, I always think of it as like a unicorn belief of wealthy people. It was like, oh, if you have money, everything is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I started working with all the people. I'm like, oh, they're just people. And they have blind spots just like everyone else. And they struggle with different things at different levels. It's like, we're all just people struggling. And so when you learn how to understand human behavior, and mindset, I work with people on energy, mindset, and business scaling habits. Those are all related to how you think, believe, and feel. And then that affects how you act and what decisions you make. And so, it was like understanding the puzzle of humans made it so easy to just hear what they were saying and go, oh, here's where you're stuck.
I want to talk about a concept with you that I've kind of been like framing in my mind, because I'm in a unique situation where I coach people, but I'm running a small business that has 47 employees, but I'm an owner, but I'm a CEO. And what I'm realizing is that at all times, for me at least, I'm curious to see what you think, there's two trains of thinking going on at the exact same time. There is, who do I need to be today as a fiance, as somebody that cares about myself, and a CEO and a leader of my company. And then there's the guy that I'm visioning out for the business 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And it was actually a business book talking about marketing and this concept that made you think about that. Does that ring a bell? Does that hit any nerve with you, that there's like, like one of the things my mentor told me is like, the driver of the car doesn't change, but the vehicle does.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's great. Yeah.
And so when you're working with people's minds, like, is that kind of the next level?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It's always about identity transformation and who you need to become, right? So how do you step into who you need to become and be it now, even though you're not? And so it's interesting because people cause themselves a lot of resistance by seeing that gap and feeling like imposters or not good enough or not sure how to get there. And in manifestation, you must 100% believe in what you are attracting to be true. And if you don't, you're going to cause resistance and push it out and resist the goal. And so in order for you to start owning it, you've got to do interesting mindset strategies where you're telling yourself things that are 100% believable to you, so you don't cause that subconscious resistance that goes, you're full of crap, that's not true at all, there's no way you can do this, that kind of thing. So I teach people what I call affirmantras, and it's a way of programming your mindset with affirmations in a repeatable way. So affirmantras that you say over and over again, and use them to reprogram your subconscious mind so that you can start to up level. And so it's exactly like you're saying. I mean, you're looking 5 years out, you can say the characteristics of that 5-year out leader and whatever amount of money and all those things, but you don't know it yet in your being. And so you want to start training yourself just in very small increments, because if we can increase in 10 to 20% increments, if we try to go from 0 to 100 we instantly trigger resistance.
And when you coach as many people as you have, is there an underlying like one or two kind of things that they're always dealing with, no matter, how old they are, men, women? Is there like a overall kind of thing that like a line that runs through pretty much everybody?
It's interesting because I always say there are three main reasons that entrepreneurs struggle. And I would say that it's procrastination, fear, and lack of a system. And that really overarches everything. And it shows up in different ways at different levels. Stepping back from that, I would say it's self-doubt. Like it's wild how much we doubt ourselves and negatively compare ourselves to other people. So it's like, in procrastination, there's doubt. In fear, there's doubt. In a lack of plan, there's doubt. And so it's this doubting of yourself, second guessing, thinking that you can't find the resources, the tools to really confidently move into the next era or version of you.
But Dr. Amanda, I mean, you're a mindset coach, you're a mindset ninja. You don't have any fear, procrastination, doubt, right? You don't have it. Like it never runs, right? It never runs.
Never,
you, right?
ever.
So people say, right, all the time. Yeah. I'm like, oh, every day. Yeah, every day.
It's interesting. I will say, I always tell people, like, when you get these tools, you still encounter it. You just know how to move through it a lot more quickly and easily. And that's it. I'm still human, right? And I like that saying that at every new level is a new devil. It's true, right? Part of the reason, I don't know if people will be watching this or not, but it's in terms of spirals in my office, and like I have tattoos and I wear spiral earrings and spiral rings.
Okay.
And it's because growth is an upward spiral trajectory, right? You have downs that you can't expand to the next level of yourself unless you have the down. And then it gives you new perspective to expand to a larger version of yourself on the up, and then you go down again. And that's the cycle of evolution. You have support and challenge, you have falling down and getting up. And so it's unrealistic for people to expect it's going to be all just straight line success, A to Z, and it's every step up. And I feel awesome at every moment in time. And money's always increasing. Like that's not a realistic expectation. And in fact, the people who are willing to go through the downs are the ones who will grow faster and bigger because they're not resisting it.
Okay. And how does one break out of that resistance? What's the first step?
I've been laughing at how easy these things actually are. I'm like 3 deep breaths first, right? Yeah. And it's
how dare you? It's supposed to be complicated. How dare you?
I know. And I always, I have a 3-step formula. I call it my inner power formula. So it's step number 1, recognize. Step number 2, reframe. Step number 3, repeat to reprogram. And that is literally how simple it is. And yet everyone thinks there's some big grandiose answer out there and they're looking for the magic pill. And the truth is it's slowing down enough to be conscious of yourself, get to know yourself. It's the recognize part, right? You want to know, where am I stuck? How am I spending my time? What do I believe to be true about myself and money and business growth and relationships, all the things that cause us stuck points, get to know yourself. And the things that you don't like, you must reframe. So you've got to start reframing your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, so that then you can get different actions and different results. I always tell people your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So if you don't like what's going on the outside, change what's within. That's why my company's called Inner Power Daily. It's this concept of I choose inner power daily, right? It's a choice. It's a conscious choice. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Carl Jung, and he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And I run my whole system, my business, myself, everything I do around that concept, because it's like, oh, whatever's going on in my outer world is because of something that I think and feel inside. And that's how the law of attraction works and magnetism.
No, I tell people all the time, like, you think you're in business? You're not in business. You're in the people business. Doesn't matter what you do. You're in the people business. And until you realize that, right? And then now, one of the things I have an issue with, and we've kind of gone overboard the last couple of years, I feel like we're kind of like teetering back a little bit. We've glorified and kind of highlighted entrepreneurship, right? And everybody wants to quit their job. And everybody wants to do this. And, entrepreneurship is not the easiest pill. There's many peaks and valleys, right? But I think the reason that people don't want to do it is because they don't understand money. And they don't understand that you can't get a loan when you have a business that you own, at least for the first couple of years. Like, so like those things that you want, the car, the house, it's going to be really tough. My joke is I can't get a canoe, loan right now, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And so and do you find that people just, it wasn't until I worked at a private equity firm where we took money, where we were getting money from Blackstone, that I started realizing, okay, how does the money world work? I dove in deep. The people just really don't understand money at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you know this. My last round of my business was called NFA money, no fucking around money.
Yeah.
And
I read that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote my book on money and on money mindset, because you're right. Like, we aren't taught how to think about money. Mostly we're taught to feel stress about money, to be afraid of never having enough, to think that money is going to cause stress, or if you make too much money, you're a greedy jerk. Like, we've got so many blocks around money. And I love this really simple wealth formula. It's just wealth equals income plus money management. And how you manage your money is what matters, because I've worked with people when they came to me who are making millions of dollars who would live paycheck to paycheck. And that blew my mind. I was like, what if I had millions of dollars coming in? Because for me, I was stuck in how to get the money, right? They were stuck in how to manage the money. And so it's a very simple tool. It's very simple to build your wealth. Make more money, manage it well. Make money, manage it well. Like, we see this with often immigrant families where they just are incredibly brilliant at managing their money, and they will retire in really amazing ways, having put their kids through school. Whereas you see people who make a ton of money and are living paycheck to paycheck. So exactly like you're saying, people are afraid of it. They have a lot of blocks around it. And it's what causes you to continue the cycle of stress and overwhelm, especially as an entrepreneur. And it's cracking me up. You talk about, the canoe, getting a loan for a canoe. It's like, people don't understand, in a lot of ways, if you're managing your business well, you are going to minimize your income and have as many write-offs as possible. So you're always going to be in that situation.
Dude, my CPA said it to me one year. He said, my question to you is, are you trying to buy real estate in the next 2 years? Yeah. Or are you trying to save money? You get two choices. Those are the only ones.
Totally.
And it's the truth, right? It's like, either I look really good and I pay a ton in taxes, or I don't look good and I can't get a loan. There's only the only way. It doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So then you've got to learn money mastery. It's like, okay, do you have maybe an IUL where you bank on yourself? Do you what do you set up to structure that? Do you go, okay, I'm always going to pay cash for things? Or is this a year that I do want to buy real estate, so I'm going to overpay myself and have the least write-offs? Like, you've got to manage it.
Well, I think one of my best friends who buys a ton of real estate, has a couple businesses. He said every investment on the proper time horizon is a great investment.
Yeah.
And the problem is when it comes on the money talk, is that nobody has a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They want it to happen next week. Right. And it's like, the question is, like, I'm 40 right now, right? Like, about to be 41. And I look at myself, and like, my first half of my life was, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, up until 36. Kind of only been doing it right for 4 years. And I'm like, dude, you have like 40 to 50 more years. Yeah. So like, what is it that you really want to do? And then in year 10 and 15, when the compounding really gets crazy, that's going to be amazing. And you're going to be able to spend time with your kids and everything. But there's not a lot of people that are thinking that far out, right? My joke with people is very simple. If you had a company and for 10 years in a row, you made $100,000, and then on year 10, you sold it for 10 million, was the company not successful from year 1 to 9?
Yeah. That's awesome to think about. Yeah.
It's the truth, right? Because we're putting labels, identifying, like you said earlier, with the wrong things. Yeah. Instead of being, like, people hire you and I, and we're going to say, we're going to make you happier. Like, that sucks. Nobody's going to hire that. I don't want to be happier. I want to be more successful. I want to be goal oriented. And like, that's what we're feeding out there. But like, when they come in as clients, like, we're 180 degrees the other direction. And they're like, well, I feel better, but I didn't expect this is what we were going to talk about, right? Do you ever get that too?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. At the end of working with me, if it's like, say, a one-on-one situation, they're always like, wow, this is very different than I expected. And what they come to you saying they need help with is not what they really need.
No.
Yeah.
When they write their 5-year vision, after about 4 weeks in, I have them rewrite it.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere close, right? We're all walking up the wrong mountain with the wrong tools and the wrong people around us.
Yeah.
And because the path blazed by yourself is scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's so great. Yes. You were talking about lack of a plan, and that's where I look at the top 3 issues with entrepreneurs growing is the procrastination, the fear, and a lack of a system. A system is a plan, right? That you fulfill with tools and resources that can get you expected results. Right. So when you have a system, you can scale. If you have no system, you can never scale. And that goes with anything, your health, your relationships. It's like, if we think about systematization, it's having a successful plan. And I think because we're such short-sighted humans, we always are seeking pleasure in the moment and avoiding pain. To become an entrepreneur, build a successful business, build a successful relationship, you've got to be willing to sit in the pain in the now. And hold on and sit in it, because it's not always comfortable. Things that are awesome are not always comfortable and easy. In fact, I'd say, and I don't like to recreate this idea that things have to be hard. It's just that they take energy and effort. Conscious effort is what will help you grow as a human. And so it can be very easy. It can feel good based on the framework of your mindset. If you look at it as a challenge that's on the way versus a challenge that's knocking you down, those are 2 different mindsets with the same exact things coming at you, or obstacles coming your way.
That woman that was in the basement, that was on the ground, curled up, what advice would you give to her as you sit here today?
Oh, it's interesting because I'm not a person who lives with regrets in terms of the mindset work that I do. I know that everything has happened for a reason, and I trust that it got me to where I am. And I was attracting that a reality to me because that's who I was. And so I look at back and I go like, I would just tell her, love herself, like love yourself, because you're going to go through a lot. And it's awesome when you can learn how to love yourself more through all of this. You're not a bad person. You've done things that didn't make sense at the time, and it's okay. And I think everyone needs to hear that, like wherever you're at right now, you're in the perfect body with the perfect mind at the perfect time, because I really believe the universe always has your back. You are creating a reality out of how your state of being is. And so if you want something different, just choose it and start playing with it and start programming yourself for success. Anyone can do it, literally at any point in time. And the reason you're having hardships is to help bring it to the conscious awareness so that you can face it and move through it and get different results. So it's like, I wouldn't be who I am today had I not been on the floor crying that day. I wouldn't be happy. I'm happily married. I own a property on 3/4 of an acre where I can go straight to the running trails, and I love it. Like, I travel, my life is amazing, And so it's like, I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't been there.
I love it. So we're going to take a turn for a minute, and you didn't see this one coming, but when I was researching you, I got inspired. Your branding is next level.
Nice.
It's uniform.
Thank you.
It's uniform. It's professional. It's cohesive. It has meaning behind it, and it's easy to consume. Meaning, like, it's not like this whole, you got to read this like Odyssey to find out who you are, what you do, right? I'm just curious, how did you get here? And how did you, was it help? Did you just figure it out along the way? Because I look at my first website and I'm like, nobody's ever allowed to see that ever in the history of the world,
Yeah. Oh, I feel that way too. Yeah. Thank you. That's amazing feedback. That makes me really happy, because
it's what I do for a living. So I consult for like uniform branding and stuff like that.
That's
and like
cool.
Marketing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really impressive when you see it done right.
Wow. Thank you. That's a huge compliment, and I appreciate the feedback. It's been a journey. I feel the same way. Like, the first website I did was on WordPress, and it was bad. I mean, bad. And I got really into marketing so much more than I didn't really know I would get into marketing, but I knew I needed to learn marketing, because really every company is a marketing company. And until you know your brand, you can't, it's like, it takes time to figure out your identity. I talk about scattered brand identity when you're starting, just like you're saying, there's no clarity. It's all over the place. It's kind of like a potluck. people don't really understand what you're doing. They don't really, know what you stand for because you don't yet, and so I think it's a journey that you go through. And so I'm in year 5 of my business, and we've rebranded things a few times. And this brand, I would say, is it's new this year. And this brand is new this year. And I was having a talk with my husband, who left his C-suite job to come work with me full time. And I was having this stuckness with my last brand. I'm like, I feel scattered energy, and I wish I could just deconstruct and start over with everything I've learned. And so I went for it. And that's what's in this brand now. It's like, I'm like, okay, clarity, be focused. Who am I attracting? What's the client journey? How do I lead them down a path? And I really just, from everything I've learned over the last years, pieced it all together finally in a brand that's cohesive.
Oh, and we only have, we only have a couple minutes, right? I'm obsessed with music. Like, that's my thing. Like, my whole life, I used to work in the music business when I was 20, like my whole family, like, I'm obsessed with music. And I can tell you within the first 3 beats of a song whether or not I like it, right? And that's the society that we've gone on. So when you create a cohesive brand, you create a cohesive message, right? There's 90 million different things I want to talk about, but I don't put that out there, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship school and creating a charity, but like that's from 50 on, and there's no need to put that out in the universe now, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's also very hard because I'm attracted to so many different things. But I've had to learn, especially when you're asking for more money, especially when you got bigger investors, less is more. The thing that changed my life was I had a really guy who manages a couple billion fund. He said, Austin, you sit here for 15 minutes and you told me about how great it's going to be. And I'm sure it's going to be great. And that's all thing. But how am I going to lose my money? He goes, that's all I care about. And that was the aha moment, that it's like, what you care about is not what that guy sitting over there cares about.
Yes.
And so you got to listen. And I think what a lot of people do, right? And I don't know if you would give a suggestion too. They're spending weeks trying to come up with a Facebook group or a brand or a book. Why don't you just ask your audience what things are hurting them the most, right? It's like, well, we have so much fear in that. And it's like, there's your answer right there, right? And it's just, it's your brand or your identity is probably not as far away as you think if you just, like you said, 1, 2, 3, breathe.
Yeah. We could talk for hours because you just said so many things. I'm like, yes. And it's that plan, right? It's the plan, letting go of your fear and procrastination, take a step, ask your people, then create it. That's one thing I learned the hard way, was creating things before I asked my people or even had anyone, right? And so I started playing with like, the first step in my roadmap, I walk people through a roadmap to build a successful business. And it starts with market validation, which is asking your people what they want or need before you create anything. Because if you're not fulfilling a need for them, you don't have the right solution. And you're going to be, when you're creating content, it's hard. When you're creating your brand identity, it's impossible. It makes it so confusing. So I, always tell people, narrow your focus to expand your freedom, and start with the things you know for sure, and then build from there, right? You don't start with a whole bunch of stuff and hope it works. Let's be strategic in our system and our plan, and most people, that's something that I really had struggled with. So, when you say like, do I struggle with fear and procrastination? I'm not a huge procrastinator. Sometimes I almost take too much action that's not thought out well enough. Yeah. And then, in that fear piece, that started to minimize. I know, I bet you're like me, like the innovator.
You have no idea. Yeah. Oh, what happened? Okay, we'll fix it in 2 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sometimes I need to actually slow down from creating. Yeah. So it's the lack of a plan for me. It was a lack of a system. And so now that I'm getting systematized, I'm like, now I can scale to 7 figures. Whereas before it was an impossibility because I was spinning my wheels doing too many things. And so I was stuck at 6 figures.
When we were consulting for clients, me and my podcast producer who does my marketing and my branding, there was an exercise in his branding packet that changed my life. And I went on a 30-minute rant with a client about this exercise. And he called me afterwards and he goes, what just happened? He goes, it was like Rain Man, because it just hit me. Okay. So the exercise is your name, Austin Linney, is your name in all caps on the first letter are all lowercase. And the client was dealing with some childhood trauma. He was a big investor developer. So he thought he was all caps, but internally he was all no caps.
Yeah.
He wanted to get to the middle one.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it was like, I went off on this like 20-minute dissertation out of nowhere. And Mark was like, what just happened? And I'm like, because that little moment articulated so much about everything, right?
Yeah.
Like when you walk in a room, are you all caps? Are you no caps? Or are you caps in the front?
I love it.
And if you have peace in your heart, you're the middle one.
Yeah.
If you don't think a lot, and vice versa, right? It's the same thing that happened to me during my divorce. So during my divorce, I left the trees and the rivers and I went to the desert, because the desert promotes rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
It promotes pain. It promotes tough weather. And then once I was healed, then I could go back to the mountains.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we think of things in that context, right? Colorado is a very healing place because the mountains, they listen. And a lot of people don't have people to listen to them. So they just want to be there with the trees and the mountains, right? In the desert, you're alone. And so that's why I think a lot of people gravitate to the mountains in Colorado, because they do something for them that they're needing, which is somebody to listen to.
I love that. That's amazing. I trail run and hike, from my house. I've got access to all these trails, and it's like, I get so much information there. Exactly like you're saying. Like, it's the best place for me to get information from myself in communion with nature. It's like collective consciousness gets downloaded in those moments.
and we take for granted our own thoughts because we have so much input.
Yeah,
right? It's all input all day. So just that little simple thing, it's a big deal. So if people want to find out more about you, they want to follow the podcast, they want to get the book, how would they do that?
Yeah. So my handles, and if they just go to Inner Power Daily, so innerpowerdaily.com, they'll find everything there. All my social media handles, Inner Power Daily. Podcast is Inner Power Entrepreneur. Super fun podcast, lots and lots of content there. And then for free book chapters, they can just go to IamAMoneyMagnetBook.com, check it out, see if they like it, and then order a copy. It's got 100 plus journaling questions to break through your unconscious money blocks.
Who doesn't need more money, right? Money is oxygen. So the more you can push past that, it's the best. Guys, if you got some value from this, send it to a friend, share it along. We'll see you next time. Thank you.